10:18 is the time. I'll let Olivia kick things off for the opposition this morning. Either you believe in democracy and equality or you don't, James. I did suggest that I might be in the tail between my legs territory by the end of the first call to the programme. This isn't even a call, it's a text. The idea that someone is better than us for no reason other than the random family they were born into is ludicrous. I'd rather have Donald Trump elected as head of state, and I'm a lefty. That's democracy. But the idea that someone who's managed to persuade millions of racists to cheer for his Muslim bans and white supremacy is better than the rest of us is surely even more disgusting or even more ridiculous, Olivia. And that's democracy. I don't know. I may say that quite a few times in the course of the next 40 minutes or so. Let's start with Jake, who's in Wickham. Jake, be gentle with me.
Hi.
Hello.
I kind of had the same epiphany as you yesterday. I was having a bit of a to and fro with one of my best friends, Stu, and he's completely against me. Hi, Stu. He's completely against me in my views over the monarchy. And so I was delving into more on the Republic side and what their voice and thought was. And they think that the best person to be a head of state is a ceremonial or constitutional position, someone that represents the nation, defends our democracy, and acts as a referee in political process, and also offers a non-political voice at times of crisis and celebration. Now, to me, I can't understand why anyone who was to go for a position of elected head of state would want to do that unless it was the personal gain. So for me, to have someone that was born into the role, that understands the value of...
You've skipped over the golden carriages, the castles, the crowns and the untold riches, Jake, haven't you?
Of course, but there's a history to it. I mean, even people that say that they're not a royalist at the moment are saying that yesterday there was something about the spectacle that we put on, and I'm proud to be British, and if we got rid of that, we'd lose that. And then who are we? We've come out of the EU, and now we're going to take away the one thing that represents us as the country. No, but I'm just challenging your suggestion that you're suggesting that nobody would want to do it. I do find that a little tricky. The idea that this is some terrible burden that has to be shouldered by people who live in absolute luxury and whose own family curtsy to them. Yeah, I mean, not that I'd fancy the last bit. It's not that maybe my mother-in-law do it. It's not that they wouldn't want to do it. It's just I can't see, if you've got to be non-political and you've got to be there just as a representation of our country, you're going to want to put your own agenda on it. Yeah. So that means we're going to. What's it like in France? What does the French president do politically? Is he as powerless as our monarch? Because we think about the prime minister, don't we, when we're talking about politics and elections? Yeah. I don't know. My ignorance is embarrassing. So no, I take your point. We'll let the castle stand, but the idea that there is no, in terms of what the role actually is, there's no self-advancement involved in it. There's nothing satisfying. I would just rather someone that was there for the long haul rather than voted in and out and could potentially shift us in the wrong direction on the world stage more than we're already doing. Yeah. So at least have some form of what's the word I'm looking for? Longevity, consistency. Longevity, consistency. Consistency. No, I see it. I'm a little surprised. Are you surprised to find these words coming out of your mouth, Jake? Would they have done? I am. I am too. And we may have been slightly gaslit. I'm a lefty. Yeah, I'm all for democracy. I'm a lefty, as they would say. But to me, it feels nicer to have a comfort blanket of the crown above Parliament than just some Donald Trump-esque character above. No, and I mean, maybe we've been slightly softened up or gaslit by the pageantry of the last few days and the epic. I mean, whether it's the music or the images or whatever it is, the sight of the crown in the hearse going up the road, well, twinkling caught my eye. Who knows what it will be? Robin's not impressed. James O'Brien on LBC, tying himself in knots, trying to convince himself there's something good about the monarchy, just as tortuously as he does trying to convince himself there are some decent Tories. You may have a point, Robin. It's been said before and it will be said again. I do perhaps strain too hard to see the good in everyone. But it's a better position to be in than straining too hard not to. Isn't it? No? Maybe? From Jake to Joe, from Wickham to Oxford. Joe, what would you like to say?
Hello, James.
Hello,
How
Joe.
are you?
Very well indeed.
Hello. Good. I just wanted to make the point. An awful lot of opposition to the royal family seems to come as in two forms.
Did I just get my French prime ministers and presidents mixed up? I may have done. Anyway, you carry on. I'll do that.
I'm not going to correct you on that.
Well, someone has to.
They've had 5 republics, James. So
Yes.
probably you were right during one of them. Right,
Carry on.
Anyway. The point I was going to make is that most of the most of the opposition to the royal family seems to come, firstly, with arguments about democracy, and second, with arguments about equality.
Yes.
Now, if you look at the UN rankings around the world of different countries,
Yes.
the UN Democracy Index, the top 10 countries, 7 out of 10 of them are constitutional monarchies.
Is that correct?
If you look, indeed.
Gosh.
So it's countries like Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Holland, New Zealand, all countries that are liberal and progressive, and frankly, countries that we should be more like. And if you look at equality and democracy on that index, I can tell you that on democracy it's 7 out of 10. On equality, I can't remember what the statistic is, but constitutional monarchies compare very favourably in terms of progression and democracy.
Yeah, but
that's my point.
It's a very good point, and having got my presidents and prime ministers mixed up in the context of politics, I'm very reluctant to move into the choppy waters of modes, medians, and averages and means. But you're looking at it. I mean, they still represent epic inequality, even though they exist in societies that have better levels of equality than other societies. It's not necessarily a causal relationship, is it?
No, I certainly don't think that, but I don't think that the monarchy prevents us from becoming a more democratic country, and I don't think it will prevent us from becoming a more equal one either.
Well, it does. I mean, statistics support you on that from the big picture stuff. And the small picture stuff.
They do.
Small picture stuff. Final question. What about the princess argument, the way that, Disney and this idea of imbuing a hereditary, unachievable role with magical, mystical status is a huge obstacle to equality, a huge obstacle, if you like, almost to intellectual freedom.
Well, there is no perfect form of government. And to be honest with you, I would, at the end of the day, any head of state is going to be selected, through in a negative way. If I looked at it, I would much rather have a hereditary head of state than one that was effectively planted there by big corporations.
Yeah, and that would probably happen, or someone who had the wherewithal to campaign and therefore the funding and the donations. And, well, then again, why would anyone bother making donations if the head of state couldn't exercise any real power, couldn't give out PPE contracts or free port status or whatever it is that people get in return these days for their political donations. Joe, what a brilliant call. Thank you. 10:26 is the time. The 12 days of recent brainwashing are showing that it's worked on LBC right now. There is no place for monarchy anywhere anymore, says Rav. And I listen, I'm probably out trying to have my cake and eat it. I can see the logic in that. But if we have to have a head of state, and Julie reminds us, at least they can be dumped when they transgress. Easier said than done sometimes, actually. And there are plenty of examples of heads of state historically not being dumped when they transgress in the most awful of ways. Something about being prepared for it throughout your life speaks to a suitability for the role that couldn't be achieved via accident. I just think that. I still do. 2 calls in, still hanging on to it.